Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 5, Narada's instruction to Vyasadeva on the subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 15. जुगुप्सितं धर्मकृतेऽनुशासतः स्वभावरक्तस्य महान् व्यतिक्रमः यद्वाक्यतो धर्म इतीतरस्थितो न मन्यते तस्य निवारणं जनः. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Vishwaguru Abhay Charnaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Srila Narad Muni continued, the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vyasadeva's compilation of different Vedic literatures on the basis of regulated performances of fruitive activities, as depicted in the Mahabharata and other literature, is condemned herewith by Srila Narada. The human beings, by long material association, life after life, have a natural inclination by practice to endeavor to lord it over material energy. They have no sense of the responsibility of human life. This human form of life is a chance to get out of the clutches of illusory matter. The Vedas are meant for going back to Godhead, going back home. To revolve in the cycle of transmigration in a series of lives numbering 8,400,000 is an imprisoned life for the condemned conditioned souls. The human form of life is a chance to get out of this imprisoned life, and as such, the only occupation of the human being is to re-establish his lost relationship with God. Under the circumstances, one should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment in the name of religious functions. Such diversion of the human energy results in a misguided civilization. Srila Vyasadeva is the authority in Vedic explanations in the Mahabharata, etc. And his encouragement in sense enjoyment in some form or other is a great barrier for spiritual advancement because people in general will not agree to renounce material activities which held them human civilization. When such material activities in the name of religion, as sacrificing animals in the name of yajna, were too much rampant, the Lord incarnated himself as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop animal sacrifice in the name of religion. This was foreseen by Narada, and therefore he condemned such literatures. The flesh eaters will continue to perform animal sacrifice before some demigod or goddess in the name of religion, because in some of the Vedic literatures, such regulated sacrifices are recommended. They are so recommended to discourage flesh eating, but gradually the purpose of such religious activities is forgotten and the slaughterhouse becomes prominent. This is because foolish materialistic men do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. In the Vedas, it is distinctly said that the perfection of life is never to be attained either by voluminous work or by accumulation of wealth or even by increasing the population, but it is so attained only by renunciation. The materialistic men do not care to listen to such injunctions. According to them, the so called renounced order of life is meant for those who are unable to earn their livelihood because of some corporeal defects, or for persons who have failed to achieve prosperity in family life. In histories like the Mahabharata, of course, there are topics on transcendental subjects along with material topics. The Bhagavad Gita is there in the Mahabharata. The whole idea of the Mahabharata culminates in the ultimate instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, that one should relinquish all other engagements and should engage oneself solely and fully in surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. But men with materialistic tendencies are more attracted to politics, economics, and philanthropic activities mentioned in the Mahabharata than to the principal topic, namely the Bhagavad Gita. This compromising spirit of Vyasadeva is directly condemned by Narada, who advises him to directly proclaim that the prime necessity of human life is to realize one's eternal relation with the Lord and thus surrender unto Him without delay. A patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden for him. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not at all take. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a man attached to fruitive work should not be discouraged from his occupation, for gradually he may be elevated to the position of self realization. This is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry empiric philosophers without spiritual realization. But those who are in the devotional line need not be always so advised. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. A very beautiful verse and a very, very powerful purport by Srila Prabhupada. So let us examine, let us see this verse. Jugupsitam dharma krite anushasataha. Narad Muni is speaking. Jugupsitam. Jugupsa means a condemnable act, an abominable act, something which should not have been done. That is the implication of the word jugupsitam. This word jugupsa is used even in some of the Indian languages even today. For example, in Kannada, it is also used. So jugupsa means to feel when somebody does something very condemnable, regrettable, which should not have been done by him, then this word jigupsita is used. Jigupsa is used. Um, so it's like condemnation of somebody's work, somebody's actions. Jugupsitam dharma krite, for the matter of religion, anushasataha, instruction. O my dear disciple Vyasadeva, you have composed Mahabharata, the greatest epic of humanity. That's very nice, but uh, you know, I am condemning your Mahabharata. This is what Narad Muni is saying. Only the spiritual master of Vyasadeva has such an authority to speak like this about what Vyasadeva has done. Actually, there is no doubt that Mahabharata is a wonderful literature. It is, as we have discussed previously, it has 1 lakh verses, and the central message of Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita, the conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That is the essence of the Mahabharata. But Narad Muni is not so happy with the Mahabharata. Why? Because he's saying, Swabhava Raktasya Mahan Vyatikramaha. Naturally inclined, Swabhava Raktasya. People in this material world, they have a natural inclination towards sense gratification. And what you have done in Mahabharata is directly and indirectly everywhere, you have encouraged the people to perform uh, Vedic rites and rituals in order to enjoy a greater standard of sense gratification. Already, this is the swabhava of people to enjoy sense pleasure. Now, you have given a godly, religious touch to it, and because of this, what happens? People will openly start pursuing sense gratification in the name of religion. Dharma krite anushasataha. In the name of religion. And this is Mahan Vyatikramaha. This is quite unreasonable that you have done. This is not correct. You should not have done like this. Hmm? Yat Vakyataha, the third line, Yad Vakyato Dharma Ititara Stitaha. Yad Vakyataha, under your instruction, Dharma, religion, iti, it is thus, itiraha, itaraha, the people in general. The people in general will think that performing rituals in order to gain sense gratification is the goal of religion. They will think like this because you have set a precedence like that in the Mahabharata. And stitaha, fixed. Na manyate tasya nivaranam janaha. Na manyate, they do not think uh, nivaranam. They do not think about the prohibitions. Janaha, people in general. They will not think about how to restrain oneself from sense gratification. They will not think at all because you have so nicely glorified the processes of karma kanda rituals. So people will think dharma means to simply pursue sense gratification in a religious way. So what you have done is very condemnable. It is verily condemned and it is quite unreasonable. So two strong words Narad Muni is using in this shloka. Jugupsitam, I am condemning your act, O Vyasadeva, and Mahan Vyatikramaha. What you have done is a greatly unreasonable thing. So we can just imagine the mood of a pure devotee like Srila Vyasadeva or Srila Narad Muni rather here. We can understand what is the mood of Narad Muni from these instructions. Narad Muni does not want to give anything less than pure devotional service to the suffering humanity in this material world. Because anything which is less than pure devotional service, however nicely it may be presented, however religiously it may be presented and practiced, cannot actually give full satisfaction to the soul. The real solution is to get out of this material existence and to engage in loving devotional service at the lotus feet of Krishna. That is the only thing that can satisfy the soul. Now, Narad Muni is saying, you should have actually given only that, Vyasadeva. You should not have talked about so many other things. So, in the previous shloka also we saw how Narad Muni condemns that, if you describe what you have done is you have described so many personalities, so many forms and names of so many devatas, and this simply reacts. Unless one comes to the lotus feet of Krishna, one cannot actually find real peace and happiness. Narad Muni said that. So we can, from this, we can understand the difference between Mahabharata and Bhagavatam. Though both these scriptures talk about Krishna, Krishna's dealings with his devotees, the Pandavas, the battle of Kurukshetra and its outcome, all these things are described in both the scriptures, Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam. But the central focus of both of these scriptures is totally different. Mahabharata's central focus is to help people appreciate the four principal goals of human life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, so that they at least come to one level of civilization, so that they practice dharma in a regulated manner. They engage in sense gratification under the regulations of dharma. That is the central point in Mahabharata. But in the Bhagavatam, even regulated sense gratification is condemned. The Bhagavatam wants to elevate the readers to the platform of pure devotional service and nothing else. Many a times, even regulated sense gratification can become uh, obstacle because a person who is addicted even to so-called regulated sense enjoyment can become absorbed in it so much so that he forgets the original purpose of life. So Narad Muni's instruction to Vyasadeva is that you must only glorify pure devotional service and not even regulated sense gratification. So therefore, Mahabharata focuses on the path of pravritti, whereas the Bhagavatam focuses on the path of nivritti. Pravritti means the path of attachment, regulated attachment. Nivritti means the path of complete detachment. And of course, Bhagavatam is not presenting the path of detachment in an impractical manner. Bhagavatam is not saying that you give up all pursuits of sense gratification and simply remain silent. No, because the soul is active, the mind has to think, the mind has to desire. So Bhagavatam is presenting an alternate. Okay, by giving up sense gratification, what should you do? No, you should engage in activities of Krishna consciousness, devotional service, which will help you develop a higher taste. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, etc. Engage in chanting, hearing about the Lord, in practical devotional service to the Lord. And in this way, you should win over your lower tastes. You should conquer your lower engagements by being absorbed in higher taste giving activities of bhakti. That is the proposition of Narad Muni, that is the proposition of Vyasadeva. So, uh, the scriptures also say, Prabhupada quotes, Pravrittir yesha bhutanam nivrityesham mahapalaha. Everyone has a pravritti, a natural inclination to engage in material sense gratification because we have forgotten our real position as servants of Krishna and we are enamored by the uh, glaring attractions provided by Maya in this material world. Maya promises us that we can enjoy independently. Maya promises us a life of full happiness in sense gratification. But this is actually cheating. That is the very meaning of the word Maya. Ma-ya, two syllables. Ma means not. Ya means this. Maya means not this. Maya means illusion. the reality. What you are thinking is not the reality. Your perception about reality is wrong. That is called Maya. So, under the influence of Maya, everybody is pursuing sense gratification in this material world. That is the pravritti. But if one can take up the process of nivritti, giving up attachment to sense gratification, and instead turn his attention to his eternal relationship with Krishna, then that will lead him to the auspicious path of liberation, of going back to Godhead. So, this is the intent of Narad Muni. This is the intent of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So, therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is called Paramahamsa Samhita. It is the Vedic scripture meant for the pleasure of the Paramahamsas, the liberated souls. It is a Vedic scripture which will enable anybody to come to the platform of Paramahamsa or a pure liberated soul. That is the standard, gold standard of Srimad Bhagavatam. No other literature can compare to Srimad Bhagavatam. Because everywhere else, though there is description of some understanding about bhakti, but the way Srimad Bhagavatam is presenting bhakti, that is simply, amazing. Bhagavatam is exactly explaining the last instruction of Krishna. The last instruction of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is what? Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja, isn't it? Abandon everything and just surrender unto me. Sarva dharman parityajya. Give up all varieties of dharma. What is that dharma? So many dharmas that have been described in the Vedic scriptures. All those dharmas you give up. You just surrender to Krishna. This is the intention of Krishna. So pure devotee like Narad Muni exactly knows the intent of Krishna. So therefore, Bhagavatam is just an elaboration of this instruction of Krishna. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja. What Krishna spoke in one verse, Vyasadeva is going to write in 18,000 verses. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja. Mamekam. That is also very, very clear. Krishna is very clearly saying. Krishna is not saying, okay, you surrender to any devata, it's okay. You will get the same result. No. Krishna is demanding, he's very specifically saying, Mamekam sharanam braja. Surrender unto me alone. And Bhagavatam is only talking about this point. It's only talking about this point. So there is no roundabout process. The other Vedic scriptures, gradually talk about first you follow karma kanda, do some dharmic rituals, you'll accumulate piety. Then when you get sense gratification and many, many lifetimes you enjoy sense gratification, but finally you're not satisfied, so you get frustrated. Then you come to jnana kanda, seek, the knowledge beyond the body, seek the understanding that you are not the body or soul. In this way, philosophically, you become convinced about your existence. Then you come to, worshipping the Lord. So that's a step-by-step process, or it is a way to reach the top floor by climbing the steps one by one. But Srimad Bhagavatam is the escalator method. Srimad Bhagavatam is saying, doesn't matter wherever you are, whatever you may be, doesn't matter, you may be the most abominably sinful person, doesn't matter. You simply take up chanting, simply take up the process of chanting the holy names and hearing about Krishna. Sthane sthita shrutigatam tanuvan manobihi. This is what Lord Brahma says in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam in his prayers to Krishna. So Lord Brahma is recommending that you don't have to change your position. Wherever you are, you be situated in that position. Sthane sthitaha. But shrutigata, you simply engage in hearing about Krishna. And By hearing in the association of devotees, you will develop attraction for Krishna. If you develop attraction for Krishna, giving up all your other sinful habits and addictions is just so easy. You don't have to break your head at all. So Bhagavatam's process is very, very sublime. Now Bhagavatam describes about Krishna, the process of bhakti, and simply by becoming attached to hearing about Krishna from Bhagavatam, one can easily develop higher taste. That's the power of Bhagavatam. So it's not an ordinary scripture. So therefore, Vyasadeva's compilation of different Vedic literatures and Mahabharata is condemned by Narad Muni. Now, of course, Vyasadeva does not contest. He will not say, "Oh, what is this, my dear spiritual master? This is so far, this is the greatest literary work that I have done, this Mahabharata. No one in this world so far has ever dared to even attempt to compose such a huge volume, 1 lakh verses. This is my lifetime achievement, and you are telling Jugupsitam, Mahavyatikramaha, you are saying it is abominable, condemnable, it is, you know, it is, quite unreasonable, you are saying. Why are you saying like this? Don't you have any respect for my work? No, Vyasadeva did not contest like that because, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Guru Mora Murkha Deki Korilo Shasana. A disciple, however great he may be in the worldly estimation, in front of his spiritual master, he must present himself as a fool number one. This is the right mood of a disciple. A disciple should not try to justify how great he is, how wonderful his acts are. No, in front of the spiritual master, he should not do this. A disciple should always depend on the mercy of the spiritual master. Chastisement of the spiritual master is blessing of Krishna. The instructions given by the spiritual master to correct us is actually a mercy upon us. This is the mood of a progressive devotee, an aspiring disciple should have this mood. So even when we are reading Srila Prabhupada's books, we should not think, oh, what is this? Prabhupada is giving this kind of, instruction. I don't think this is practical. No, we should not judge what Prabhupada is saying. That's not the mood. The moment we judge, the moment it's an offensive way to treat a pure devotee of the Lord. And offenses block mercy and blessings of Guru and Krishna. So, aparadha, radha means pleasure. Apa means that which takes away. Aparadha means that which takes away the pleasure of the pure devotees and the Lord. That which brings displeasure to the Lord, that is aparadha. That by which the Lord is not pleased, that is aparadha. And the greatest among all the aparadhas is Vaishnava aparadha, talking ill about or thinking ill about, speaking ill about, or treating wrongly a devotee of the Lord, that is Vaishnava Paradha. And as we know, the spiritual master is the greatest among all the Vaishnavas. So one should not have an offensive mentality towards the spiritual master if one wants to make progress in bhakti. So rather than trying to see Srila Prabhupada's instructions from our limited logic, from our limited material points of view, we should appreciate the compassion of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is so mercifully giving us exactly what is required to perfect our lives. Prabhupada is required, he is just requesting us chant Hare Krishna, follow the 4 regulative principles. I will take you back to Godhead. So this is the mercy. We should always meditate upon the mercy, the compassion of Srila Prabhupada. Our logic and our material knowledge is so tiny, it is so limited. We cannot try to see what Prabhupada is trying to say through our tiny logic, through our limited material knowledge. That's not the way. So therefore, while we are reading Srila Prabhupada books, we should read in a prayerful mode. We should read in a humble mode. We should know that what I know is nothing. My spiritual master is coming directly from the spiritual world. He knows the inner heart of Krishna. So he is revealing mercifully through his Bhakti Vedanta purports this very precious knowledge which I should treasure and I should follow. So this should be the mode in which we should read Srila Prabhupada's books. So Prabhupada is also saying in the purport that human life is such a wonderful opportunity to get out of the clutches of material existence. So human life should be utilized to go back to the spiritual world. But the instructions given by Vyasadeva in Mahabharata and other Vedic scriptures encourage sense enjoyment in one or the other form. And this is the greatest barrier for spiritual advancement. Because instead of gradually becoming disinterested in sense gratification, by following the path of karma kanda, one becomes more and more materially attached. So the very purpose of human life is defeated, as it is mentioned in the fifth canto of Bhagavatam. Parabhavo yavad abhota jato yavanna jijnasata atma tattvam. Parabhavo tavad abodha jataha yavanna jijnasata atma tattvam. Until one comes to the point of inquiring about one's relationship with Krishna, all of one's attempts in the human form of life is simply parabhava. It is simply defeat. So, simply following karmakanda rituals and seeking material enjoyment is not the paramount goal of human life. So, this is what Narad Muni is condemning. Prabhupada is also talking about the incarnation of Buddha. So Lord Buddha came when animal slaughter was rampant. People were recklessly killing animals in the name of following Vedas, in the name of performing sacrifices. So that means people had become so attached to the process, they forgot the purpose. The purpose of sacrifice is to please Lord Vishnu. That primary purpose was sidelined, and people became meat eaters in the name of performing yajnas, killing innocent animals. So when this became uncontrolled, then the Lord himself came and told, you don't follow the Vedas, you just follow ahimsa. He came as Buddha and told this. Why? Because you are misusing the Vedas. Vedas are supposed to guide you how to surrender to Krishna, but you have become attached to sense enjoyment in the name of following Vedas. So you are only namesake Vedic followers. So for those who are namesake Vedic followers, their primary purpose is sense gratification only, but they want a rubber stamp that, yeah, we are followers of Vedas. This is cheating, this is hypocrisy, duplicity. This is not the way it should be. This is not the way to follow the Vedas. So therefore, only those who have come to the point of understanding that I am a servant of Krishna, I have to engage in service of Krishna, they have actually understood the real purpose of all the Vedic instructions. That is why Srila Prabhupada says that one who takes pleasure in chanting the holy names of Krishna is the greatest Vedantist. He is the greatest Vedantist. So, that is a point. Another point that Srila Prabhupada mentions is, in the Vedas it is distinctly said that the perfection of life is never to be attained either by voluminous work or by accumulation of wealth or even by increasing the population. So, but it is so attained only by renunciation. The materialistic men do not care to listen to such injunctions. According to them, the so-called renounced order of life is meant for those who are unable to earn their livelihood because of some corporeal defects, or for persons who have failed to achieve prosperity in family life. So, the Vedic scriptures say that you may be a very scholarly person, you might have studied all the Vedas, or you might have excelled in performing all the Vedic rituals properly, or you may be a very rich person, or you may have a big progeny. Through all these things, you cannot attain the purpose of life, perfection of life. Perfection of life is only attained when one gives up material sense gratification and engages in the service of the Lord. So, this is the actual understanding. So, people who take, some people, materialistic people think that, oh, this sannyasa, this giving up of materialistic way of life is only for those who are materially unsuccessful. Oh, they could not do well in their material career. Therefore, they got frustrated and they have taken up devotional service. This is what generally people think, but that's not the right understanding. That we get to know when we study the life of great acharyas in our own sampradaya. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for example, tomorrow is the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is called the seventh Goswami because just like the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, Bhaktivinoda Thakur came from a very good family, aristocratic family, and not only that, he was materially very well qualified. He was a great scholar, and he was also serving as a magistrate in the British government. And he was so efficient in his material duties as a judge, as a magistrate, right? But in spite of that, he led a very simple life, focused on serving Krishna, fulfilling the desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just like the Goswamis of Vrindavan, he wrote innumerable volumes of books to encourage people to take up Krishna consciousness. Just like the Goswamis of Vrindavan, on the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, excavated the birthplace of Krishna in Mathura and also the pastime places of Krishna in Vrindavan. In the same way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur excavated or found out the actual location of the birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Mayapur. So, therefore, his activity, even though he was a family man, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, empowered Acharya, he has shown us by his personal example that no material condition is detrimental for one's spiritual progress, provided one is committed to serve the Lord in all circumstances. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's activities exactly resemble the activities of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. Therefore, he is rightly called the seventh Goswami. So, even though he was a family man, he had many children, but his focus was on serving Krishna. This is very important. See, in our Krishna conscious parampara system, unlike the Mayavadi parampara says that only sannyasi can become guru. But in our Krishna conscious, in our Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara, spirit is more important than external upadhi, external titles. The spirit is more important. Spirit is emphasized. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not a sannyasi, right? But he is a parampara acharya in our Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara. So this is not an ordinary thing. So more importance is given to the spirit in our Krishna conscious understanding, right? So that is one more point. So it's not that this philosophy that those who are materially unsuccessful, they take up Krishna consciousness or spiritual life. That's not the idea. That's not the idea. That's not correct idea. So Bhagavatam is clearing all of these things. And Prabhupada is also giving one interesting example in the last paragraph of the purport. Prabhupada says, a patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden for him. So, generally, mind does not understand negative language. Suppose if I tell you, don't imagine a pink elephant. The first thing that comes to your mind is pink elephant only, isn't it? So, that is how the mind works. What is forbidden, mind wants to pursue that only. But, Prabhupada is giving, For example, a typhoid patient is advised not to eat solid foods because his body is not in a proper condition to digest solid food. But a patient has inclination and a lot of desire to taste varieties of food stuff, even in his disease condition. So, what happens when he takes the forbidden food? The disease will aggravate instead of curing, instead of getting out of the symptoms and becoming healthy again. The disease becomes more intense. So, an expert physician, along with prescribing the medicine and treatment for the disease, he will also recommend what should not be taken. Prabhupada is saying the expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not at all take. Even partially, one should not take. A typhoid patient cannot say, you know, one, I'll just take one bonda I will eat. I'll not eat five bondas. I'll eat only one bonda, one bhaji I will eat. No, the patient will say, no, not even a bit you should eat. Because right now the focus should be how to get cured of your typhoid disease. If you take that food, you will suffer more. So, an expert physician will not compromise. He is interested in making the patient fully healthy. So, therefore, the restrictions imposed by the physician, is out of his love or his concern for the patient. So, in the same way, Bhagavatam is saying, don't engage in sense gratification, not even partially, not even in a regulated manner. Even that we should give up. That is the point. That is what Bhagavatam is saying. So, by following this gradually, one will come to the point of self realization. So, this is the one important point here. Let us read. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a man attached to fruitive work should not be discouraged from his occupation, for gradually he may be elevated to the position of self realization. This is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry empiric philosophers without spiritual realization. But those who are in the devotional line need not be always so advised. So, very interesting point. In the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga, Krishna says that don't disturb the people who are acting with attachments. Let them continue to act in that way and slowly encourage them to take up the process of self realization. But Bhagavatam is something very interesting. Bhagavatam is like a viplava, it's a revolution, as we have already read this word. Janasya Viplavam. Bhagavatam is actually meant to create a revolution in the hearts of the misdirected people of this modern civilization. So, what Bhagavatam is saying is very revolutionary. Bhagavatam is saying you simply engage in devotional service. Don't have to worry about anything else. Everything Krishna will take care. So this kind of a spiritual understanding needs proper training. It needs faith building, and all this is possible only in the association of devotees. So therefore, we have to practice Bhagavatam principles by taking guidance in the association of devotees. Okay, let's go to the next shloka, text 16. विचक्षणोऽस्यार्हति वेदितुं विभोर् अनन्तपारस्य निवृत्तितः सुखम् प्रवर्तमानस्य गुणैरनात्मनः ततो भवान् दर्शय चेष्टितं विभोः. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: Narad Muni continued, the Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. Purport: Theological science is a difficult subject, especially when it deals with the transcendental nature of God. It is not a subject matter to be understood by persons who are too much attached to material activities. Only the very expert who have almost retired from materialistic activities by culture of spiritual knowledge can be admitted to the study of this great science. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that out of many hundreds and thousands of men, only one person deserves to enter into transcendental realization. And out of many thousands of such transcendentally realized persons, only a few can understand the theological science specifically dealing with God as a person. Sri Vyasadeva is therefore advised by Narada to describe the science of God directly by relating his transcendental activities. Vyasadeva is himself a personality expert in this science and he is unattached to material enjoyment. Therefore, he is the right person to describe it, and Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, is the right person to receive it. Srimad Bhagavatam is a topmost theological science, and therefore it can react on the layman as medicinal doses. Because it contains the transcendental activities of the Lord, there is no difference between the Lord and the literature. The literature is the factual literary incarnation of the Lord. So the layman can hear the narration of the activities of the Lord. Thereby, they are able to associate with the Lord and thus gradually become purified from material diseases. The expert devotees also can discover novel ways and means to convert the non devotees in terms of particular time and circumstance. Devotional service is dynamic activity, and the expert devotees can find out competent means to inject it into the dull brains of the materialistic population. Such transcendental activities of the devotees for the service of the Lord can bring a new order of life to the foolish society of materialistic men. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his subsequent followers exhibited expert dexterity in this connection. By following the same method, one can bring the materialistic men of this age of quarrel into order for peaceful life and transcendental realization. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Actually, the first canto purports of Srila Prabhupada are simply wonderful. Each line that Prabhupada writes, especially in the first canto, of course, Prabhupada, all the purports are very nice, amazing. They are like windows into the spiritual, windows into the spiritual world. But the first canto purports are especially very, very important. We should pay special attention and read the first canto again and again, the purports of Srila Prabhupada. So amazing, one more amazing purport of Srila Prabhupada, we shall see. So Narad Muni is saying, Vichakshano Asya, Vichakshanaha means very expert, one who is very conversant with the subject matter. He is called Vichakshanaha. Vichakshano Asya, Asya of him, Arhati deserves, Veditum to understand, Vibhoho of the Lord. The word Vibhu means the master, the greatest. Vibhu means the greatest. So in this shloka, the word Vibhu is used by the Lord, by Narad Muni 2 times to refer to the Lord. So Vichakshano Asya Arhati Veditum Vibhoho. The first line itself, we can understand, we can talk volumes about this. Narad Muni is saying, only one who is very expert in spiritual science, that means one who is well trained, one who has the spiritual maturity, only he deserves to understand the Lord. That means understanding the Lord is not a cheap subject matter. It's not about, oh, I saw Krishna. Many people say, no, I saw Krishna in Vrindavan. I saw like this. He was dancing like this. No, that is not, it's not so cheap. No, it's not like that. One has to be vichakshanaha, very expert. This expertise one gains when one serves the pure devotee of the Lord. Only when one pleases the pure devotee by sincere surrender and service, one gets this expertise in understanding the Lord and the spiritual realities connected with the Lord. So it is not a joke, it is not a fashion. Oh, I know Krishna. In the 10th canto Bhagavatam, if you see, Lord Brahma frankly admits, Lord Brahma is not an ordinary person, no? He is directly reporting to Krishna. He is directly taking instructions from Krishna, carrying out his orders. He can directly connect with Krishna, and he receives direct instructions from Krishna from within his mind. So this is not ordinary, isn't it? But that Lord Brahma is saying, I don't know who is Krishna. People in this material world may say that they know Krishna, but as far as I am concerned, I don't know anything about Krishna. I'm a layman. I don't know because Krishna is unlimited. I can't know him. This is the mood of Lord Brahma. So one has to be very, very uh, cautious when one says that I know Krishna. What is the meaning of knowing Krishna? Ananta parasya nivritita sukham. Ananta parasya. The Lord is unlimited. He is knowing Krishna is like Lord Brahma gives an example also in the 10th canto. He says, this is there in Krishna book, you can read in that chapter where Lord Brahma stole the cows and cowherd boys of Krishna by his mystic power. That Brahma Vimohana Leela. In that chapter, it is there. Lord Brahma says, in the future, there may be great expert scientists and scholars who may be able to count each and every particle of dust, sand on this entire planet. But still, one may not be able to understand the Supreme Lord Krishna. Look at this. Being able to count each and every sand particle on this entire planet, that itself is a very difficult or practically impossible task. So Lord Brahma is saying, in the future, some technology may come like that people will may be able to know the exact number of sand particles or atoms in the entire existence, but one will never be able to completely understand or even partially understand the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So now we should understand how difficult it is to understand Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Mam tu Vedana Kaschana. Me no one knows, Krishna says. Not easy to know Krishna. Because he is Ananta Parasya. He is unlimited. His qualities are unlimited. So therefore, Narad Muni is telling, only one who is Vichakshana, one who is expert, one who is well trained, and one who is Nivrittita Sukham, one who is retired from running behind material happiness. Only such a person deserves to understand Krishna. That means, even it is a primary qualification. If you want to understand Krishna, one must be retired from the material happiness pursuits. We cannot say that I will continue to go behind material pleasures of this world. Side by side, I will also understand Krishna. What a big deal in that. No, that is not going to happen. It's not possible. A person who is materially absorbed in sense gratification can never understand Krishna because his mind will be clouded with lusty desires. And Krishna will not manifest himself in a person's mind who is materially absorbed, who is overpowered by lust, greed, and anger, and all of these things. So therefore, nivrittita sukham, one should have got, one should have become, one should say, I am done with this material pursuit of false pleasure and enjoyment. That's a primary qualification to understand Krishna. Pravartamanasya gunairanatmanaha tato bhavan darshaya cheshtitum vibhoho. So here, in the second two lines, Narad Muni is saying, but most of the people in this world are pravartamanasya. They are all in the pravritti marga, the path of attachment, isn't it? Gunaihi, they are influenced by the three gunas. and they are anatmanaha, they are devoid of knowledge of the self. So they are pravrittamanasya gunaihi. The three modes of material nature are, are engaging them in various material pursuits, and because of this, they are all devoid of knowledge of spiritual understanding. What should you do towards them? Tataha, therefore, Bhavan, your goodness, Vyasadeva, Darshaya chestitum vibho. Darshaya, show them. Darshaya means to show. Show the ways. Chestitam vibhoho. By describing the pastimes of Krishna. You show them the way of spiritual realization by describing about the spotless, pure pastimes of Krishna. So you can just see why did Narad Muni emphasize so much on describing the pastimes of Krishna? Because people in this material world are driven by the three modes of material nature. They're very attached to materialistic way of lives, and they have no spiritual philosophical realizations or even theoretical knowledge. Now you must do something to attract their attention to Krishna. And the best way to attract even a layman's attachment to Krishna is by describing the sweet pastimes of Krishna. The pastimes of Krishna are relished not only by those who are nivrittita sukham, those who are fully given up material pursuits of enjoyment, even by those who are pravartamanasya gunaihi, those who are actually driven by the three modes of material nature, those who are devoid of any philosophical knowledge, even such people take pleasure in hearing about the Leelas of Krishna, especially his pastimes in Vrindavan are very, very attractive and very enchanting. So, therefore, you should show them, Narad Muni is telling to Vyasadeva, you should show them the ways of transcendental realization by describing the pastimes, transcendental activities of the all attractive Supreme Lord. So, just see the amount of deliberation that Narad Muni and Vyasadeva are doing before even Bhagavatam was compiled. When you are doing a big project, uh, it is very important to deliberate, to think carefully, take proper guidance from the right source, and properly contemplate on the purpose of the project. If you have clarity about why I am doing this project, then 50% of the success is assured. Having clarity is so important. So our acharyas, they have deliberated so much. Why to give Bhagavatam to this world? Why people need Bhagavatam? Why the pastimes of Krishna have to be described in so much detail? There's so much deliberation behind this. It is all for our benefit. Just like 5,000 years ago, Narad Muni and Vyasadeva discussed to present Bhagavatam. Following the same spirit, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to discuss with his associates how to spread Harinam to every nook and corner of this world. Later on, Rupa Goswami and other devotees used to gather in the courtyard of Radha Damodar temple. There they would discuss how to make Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtana movement accessible to everybody in this world. Vishwa Vaishnava Rajya Sabha they formed. They didn't even think it was only for India. They said Vishwa Vaishnava Rajya Sabha. Worldwide organization it has to be, isn't it? Later on, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was the first person to actually, take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, of course, Goswamis of Vrindavan took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prophecy very seriously. Mahaprabhu had predicted that Prithvi te ache eta nagaradi grama sarvatra prachara haibe moranam. Mahaprabhu had said that in every town and village on this earthly planet, the holy names of Krishna will be chanted, resounded. And that is why the Goswamis took up this mission so seriously. But then Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the first person, the pioneer in the modern day world to conceive of a worldwide Krishna consciousness movement. And later on, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur would send his books to foreign universities. He would send his articles. He was doing this, being in India. In that time, whatever was possible, he did. And he prayed to the Supreme Lord that if I have an empowered son who can actually make this prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu true, I consider my life to be successful. So, in answer to his prayers, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was born as his son, and he established Gaudiya Math, and he sent his sannyasi disciples to London. So, and then finally, it was our beloved spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who actually fully fulfilled the prophecy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, if you see, the same spirit is continuing in the parampara. The spirit that we are reading now, that Narad Muni is trying to impart to Vyasadeva, that same spirit was inherited by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the Goswamis, by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, by our spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. So this is the meaning of parampara. The continuity of purpose is there in the parampara. It is not simply continuity of knowledge, theory. It's the continuity of the spirit also. The same spirit is flowing down in the parampara system. That is what makes the parampara so important. When you are receiving knowledge from the parampara acharya, you will receive the knowledge, not only the information contained in the scriptures, you will also receive the spirit behind those instructions. Spirit is more important. Of course, letter is also important. The instructions are also important, but spirit is even more important. The way the shlokas are like the body, the spirit of the instructions is like the soul. So in the parampara understanding, you receive both the body and most importantly the soul also. Now you may read some, in contrast to this, you may hear somebody speaking on YouTube. Oh, very nice. He is giving a nice talk. Oh, about Bhagavatam only he is giving. We may get carried away. Oh, so many people have watched this. That means he must be genuine. Now, if that speaker, he may be a devotee, but if that speaker is not a bona fide representative of the parampara, then you may receive the body only. You will never receive the spirit of those instructions. So many people may have memorized all the Bhagavad Gita shlokas verbatim. They will be able to chant the shlokas, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. But have they received the spirit? The spirit is more important, no? So, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale. Manobhishtam of Mahaprabhu. The spirit, the desire of Mahaprabhu. That is more important. So, through this Bhaktivedanta purports, we are trying to appreciate the spirit behind the instructions that Narad Muni is imparting to Vyasadeva. I'll take another 10 minutes. So, the purport has some interesting points. Let us see that. So, Prabhupada is saying, theological science is a difficult subject, especially when it deals with the transcendental nature of God. Understanding the personality of Godhead is not easy. That is why most of the people subscribe to an impersonal conception of God. Because impersonal conception means some energy, God is present as energy everywhere. So it's not very difficult to appreciate that. But to be very specific, oh, God is a person, the Supreme Absolute Truth is a person. Person means he has a personality, he has his thoughts, he has his preferences, he has his desires, he has his thinking, feeling, and willing. This is not easy to understand. Why? Because in our current experience in the material world, we have only come across limited persons, persons who have limitations. The moment we say a person, we only think about a limited person, that people whom we have come across in this material world. So, understanding the transcendental nature of the supreme personality of Godhead, that is not so easy. It's not easy. Unless one is blessed with the uh, blessed by a pure devotee of the Lord who is attached to the supreme personality of Godhead in devotional service, it is not possible to appreciate the transcendental nature of Krishna. That's why Krishna is saying also in the Bhagavad Gita, uh, anyone who knows me correctly, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjana. Krishna is saying, if you know me properly, the transcendental nature of my form, my appearance, my activities, you will become immediately eligible to go back to Godhead. So, that's the power of understanding properly the personality of Godhead. Huh? So, most of the philosophies of this world, even in Sanatana Dharma, they're very easily able to appreciate the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth. But not everyone understands the personality. Hmm? So that requires blessings of a pure devotee. So Prabhupada is saying it is not a subject matter to be understood by persons who are too much attached to material activities. Only the very expert who have almost retired from materialistic activities by culture of spiritual knowledge can be admitted to the study of this great science. So Prabhupada once said, an easygoing life and advancement in Krishna consciousness both cannot go hand in hand. They cannot go together. I want to lead an easygoing life, you know. I don't want to take any austerity. I don't want to give any inconvenience to my body and mind. All my senses should be nicely pleased. Plus, I also want to make spiritual advancement along with that. No, that is not possible, Prabhupada said. So, one has to develop distaste towards material pleasures. One should have developed distaste. Then only one can even begin his understanding the transcendental nature of Krishna. That is why Prabhupada has told you chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra every day, but along with that, you should also follow the four regulative principles. You should avoid sense gratification, sinful activities, because this four sinful activities will push us back into the material conception of life. So we will not have that proper consciousness while chanting to associate with the Lord, who is a person. You cannot be trying to love somebody and simultaneously do something which that person does not like. That cannot happen. You cannot say, I want to please my boss in the office, but I will not carry out his orders. But still, I want to please the boss and I want to have a good relationship with the boss. That's not possible, isn't it? That is contradictory. That is why Prabhupada said you chant Hare Krishna but avoid the sinful activities. Four regulative principles. Following four regulative principles will displease Krishna. So we are trying to chant Hare Krishna to please Krishna, and side by side, if you do activities which are displeasing Krishna, how it is possible to please Krishna? It's not possible. Therefore, both are important. Chanting Hare Krishna and following the four regulative principles. In fact, both complement each other. If you chant Hare Krishna nicely, you will develop more and more distaste towards sinful activities. So you'll be able to better follow the four regulative principles. And if you follow the four regulative principles, you will become more spiritually inclined to chant nicely Hare Krishna Mahamantra and hear attentively. So both of these are complementary to each other. Both are important. That is why Prabhupada is saying almost retired from materialistic activities. Unless one is almost retired from materialistic activities by culture of spiritual knowledge, one cannot be admitted to the study of this great science. So, very important point. So, one more important point is Vyasadeva. He's a proper personality to describe Bhagavatam because he himself is unattached to material enjoyment. And Shukadev Goswami is also a right candidate to receive this because he is also disinterested in material enjoyment. That means the common thing is those who are disinterested in material pleasure, only they can understand Bhagavatam. Very important. Huh? So now somebody may say, I'm not disinterested totally in material pleasures. I still maintain some interest. What to do? Doesn't matter. The process of chanting is so powerful. We should sincerely try to follow what Prabhupada is saying. Sincerely try our best to follow the four regulative principles and become more and more absorbed in Krishna conscious activities. Chanting, hearing, reading, association of devotees, devotional service. The more we become busy in these activities, slowly our interest towards material pleasures will diminish day by day. This is 100% guarantee. There is no doubt. It's like since we're going to experience higher pleasure, lower pleasures will go away. Very, very important. We don't have to so much worry about finding out some ways and means to get rid of lower pleasures. All that we have to do is follow the program of work given by Srila Prabhupada, association of devotees, reading and hearing, discussing Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, chanting nicely Hare Krishna mantra, soulfully, hearing attentively, and taking prasadam, you know, engaging in devotional service. Nicely we should absorb. Nicely we should do this. Then automatically the material pleasure taste will go away. That's a secret in Krishna consciousness. So, uh, so Prabhupada, one more last point we will discuss that Bhagavatam is filled with transcendental activities of the Lord. And since the activities of the Lord are not different from the Lord, Bhagavatam is factually the literary incarnation of the Lord. And any layman can hear this Bhagavatam and become attached to the Lord. So, Prabhupada is also saying the expert devotees can discover novel ways and means to convert the non-devotees in terms of particular time and circumstance. Devotional service is dynamic activity, and the expert devotees can find out competent means to inject it into the dull brains of the materialistic population. So, the Acharya finds ways and means according to time, place, and circumstances to inject Krishna consciousness into the minds of materialistic people. We can see that in our parampara, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this as a common man's movement. He took the Sankirtana movement to the streets of Navadvip, involved the masses of the people. So this is a new thing that Mahaprabhu did. Before him, perhaps nobody had done this, involving the masses in the chanting, in the process of worshipping the Lord, congregational chanting, Sankirtana. And then his disciples, Goswamis of Vrindavan, constructed huge temples to attract everybody's attention towards Krishna, wrote interesting books to present Krishna consciousness philosophy in a convincing manner with reference to the scriptures. And Srila Prabhupada, he made this Krishna consciousness so interesting, so engaging. Prabhupada introduced prasadam. Prasadam is something which is relished by anybody. So Prabhupada said, any food item which is sattvic, which is prepared with love and devotion, can be offered to Krishna. Krishna accepts it if it is offered with love and devotion. It is prasadam. So Prabhupada did not stereotype that only Indian food stuff, Indian cuisine can be offered to the Lord as prasadam. He didn't say that. You can offer pizzas, burgers, provided these are all 100% vegetarian, sattvic food, and it can be accepted as prasadam. Now, this is a revolutionary thing, not known to previous, previously it was not presented like that. So, this is called dynamic activity. Devotees, the expert devotees also can discover novel ways and means to convert the non devotees in terms of particular time and circumstance. So, according to time, place, and circumstance, the bona fide spiritual master can come up with new methods to engage the non devotees and make them, elevate them to Krishna consciousness. And we know there are several pastimes, several incidents, even the modern day Krishna consciousness movement, where people got attracted to bhakti, Krishna consciousness through prasadam. So, therefore, this is something very, very interesting. So, Krishna consciousness is a dynamic activity. It has to be followed according to the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master. So, we will continue to read more the instructions of Narad Muni. Many more important, very, very important instructions are coming up. And it is based on these instructions of Narad Muni that Vyasadeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will continue to read in the next session. Since it's already late, we will not have Q&A today. If you have any questions, we'll discuss in the next session. Thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.